The Reds visit Target Field this weekend, which means one thing. A significant portion of Twins Twitter won't stop thinking about Spencer Steer and Tyler Malley. Let's reminisce about what never was right after getting Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to destination for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis in the universe. Personally, it's my favorite show of the Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, brings you your team every day. I'm co-host Dave Brown, a professional ball writer since 1998, a BBWAA member since 2012, a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame voters block since this year. Please follow me on Twitter at AnswerDaveBrown if you like. Across from me in cyberspace is Brandon Warren, a Twins watcher for 30 years who not long ago covered the team on a daily basis professionally. He asks that you spam him politely on Twitter at Brandon_Warren. Here's what's coming up on this podcast. There are 16 games left for the Twins before the playoffs. That's almost 10% of the regular season. It sounds like a lot, but it will deplete quickly. 3 of those games will be against the Reds this weekend, which means peeking over to the Cincy side to see what Spencer Steer is up to, former Twins farmhand, while also lamenting the Tyler Malley deal and anything else that makes fans go, great trade, Falvey. Before we talk about that, what can Brandon tell us about who is bringing us this episode?
Today's episode brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB, all lowercase, and you'll win $50 instantly when you play $5. By the way, remember that you can catch every pitch of the Twins hometown broadcast with Chris Atterbury and friends on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app, search Twins. It's Bailey Ober against Julian Aguiar. First pitch, 7:10 p.m. at Target Field. And by the way, Aguiar, 5 starts, 21 in the third innings, 4.6 strikeouts per 9, 3.8 walks per 9, 2.1 homers per 9. Comes out to a 5.06 ERA, a 6.10 xFIP. It's a sinker, slider, curve, changeup kind of guy. Mostly sinker, slider, but a few changeups too. So the kind of guy the Twins should knock around. So I fully expect 6 shutout innings.
More like agony are. So in addition to this Red Series, Brandon, it precedes the Guardians for 4 in Cleveland, and then the Red Sox for 3 in Fenway. And so we'll allude to that at least. We'll talk about Byron Buxton being back in the lineup, I believe, after his hip problems. Austin Martin, kind of surprisingly, maybe sat down to make room. I don't know. And we'll talk about Derek Bender. This story is unbelievable. A minor leaguer, a 6th-round pick in the most recent draft. So June, is that when they did it? I don't remember.
No, it's July.
It's July? Yeah. To
All-Star break
with College World Series. Yeah, that's right. After the All-Star break. He's throwing his career away, or at least his career with the Twins, by tipping off the opponents of the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles as to what kind of pitch was coming. And not in a theatrical Crash Davis kind of way that we all laughed at, for the greater good.
Or even the catcher in Space Jam doing it for Michael Jordan.
Right. Not in that way, kind of in bad ways. But
yeah.
So we'll talk about that too. But the Twins, 5 back of the Guardians in the loss column. Unless they sweep them at Cleveland next week, catching up to first place seems, to me, unlikely. But the Twins did basically gain ground on everybody close to them in the universe Thursday, simply by not playing and everyone losing. Guardians lose, Royals lose, Tigers lose, Mariners lose, Red Sox lose. The Twins increased their playoff chances, according to Baseball Prospectus, by nearly 5% in one day. Question, why doesn't Falvey schedule more off days, Brandon?
Many have been asking that. By the way, Byron Buxton is in the lineup, batting 6th and in center field. So should be a good one here against Aguiar that just came across the wire here a little bit ago. It makes you wonder, more off days. And, the odds of that many teams all losing and not playing, not even just one or the other playing each other at any given moment, certainly about as good of an off day as you can have outside of, going fishing and then having a really nice dinner with your family. But I think this is probably right up there.
Well, that sounds lovely.
Mhm.
Let's do that. Let's just close the podcast and let's go fishing and then have a nice, maybe some walleye.
Play a little mini golf.
Yeah. But so the Reds are in town. Steer and Encarnacion Strand. Memories of them being Twins farm hands. Steer's having an okay season. I would say, I don't know, not really better than Miranda. He played more, but he's
Mhm.
not even really playing third base. He's been his production is maybe about league average, perhaps like 15% worse than last year. His statistics haven't changed. I think just maybe the league is hitting better. I haven't really quite figured that out, but
No, I think you're right.
I think that's about right. But he's not playing third. He has developed into a decent defensive first baseman, and the only other position that he really plays is left field. And he probably plays it better than Manuel Margot, or at least as well, but not anywhere where you go, wow, we really miss that guy. So, I mean, I get it. I understand why you might miss a Spencer Steer, but
Yeah.
hey, Tyler Malley's already back with a third team, the Rangers. I think he's made 3 or 4 starts. So
He's already out again.
right. Oh, he's gone. So
Yeah, he's here and gone. Like the Malley man, here and gone.
It was nice to remember him for a moment. So, do you think Twins fans are ever going to get over this trade and others like it? I don't.
No, probably not. There's 3 former Twins / prospects on the active roster right now. So 2 on the 60-day IL. Christian Encarnacion Strand has missed the bulk of the year with a broken bone in his wrist hand area. And then Ian Jabot, who was very briefly on the Twins 40-man roster. Besides Spencer Steer, do you know who the other 2 are? They're pitchers, I'll add.
Oh, I didn't look. I was afraid to look.
Emilio Pagan.
Oh, that's right.
And then Casey Legumina, who was traded for.
Like you mean it.
Yeah, he's a string bean, legume. Traded for Kyle Farmer, if I'm not mistaken. So there will be a fair amount of Twins flavor, former flavor on the roster. But no, I just think that it's become now so much of a kind of a tongue-in-cheek joke that it will stay alive between that and the people who are seriously still upset about trading Spencer Steer, who no idea where he would fit on this Twins roster. Again, doesn't mean that they made a good trade, but would be a very difficult player to shoehorn on this roster as a starting player. I mean, you could, but the idea of moving him when he had some value and when they needed a pitcher, to me, still resonates as it was a good idea that just went poorly.
So the biggest things I think that the Twins maybe can get out of this series is getting Buxton back in the rotation and making sure that he's able to play. I doubt that we'll probably see him for a couple games and then they'll give him a day off or something like that. So that's kind of important. And it's, I think there isn't really an urgency to, they got to have a sweep or whatever. It's just what we need to see from the Twins is them starting to play their best ball here, because we've got just a little more than 2 weeks left to go. And it's not absolutely necessary that they win every game because they have that cushion, like we said. But what is necessary is for them to, be the best versions of themselves here in the last 2 weeks. Is that reasonable up to of an ask?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a reasonable expectation. I think too, you mentioned the Austin Martin demotion as being semi-surprising. I think the fact that Buxton is going to need to be handled with kid gloves for at least a little while is why Deshaun Kiersey is still here instead of Austin Martin, because Kiersey is a capable defensive outfielder, more than capable in center. And I think that's too, as you might remember, maybe a month or so ago, me suggesting they should have brought him up in the first place, just because, well, it probably was a month ago, because Buxton has been on the shelf almost exactly a month. I think he went on the shelf 8/15. It's 9/13 right now. So, I think it'll be interesting to see how they manage Buxton, and that urgency is something that we see across the organization. I mean, I think that urgency comes to mind when you think about them bringing up a few pitchers from Fort Myers now that their season's over to pitch to Manuel Margot, who has since been activated, and Buxton, and Carlos Correa, who, who knows when he's going to be activated, but I'm sure it's sooner rather than later. I'm sure he's pushing hard for that. So, yeah, we need to see a sense of urgency here, and both, not only because Cincinnati is not particularly good, but because the teams they're facing after that are teams they need to take care of business against to improve their playoff / divisional standing.
Right. You made a good point about Kersey playing a better center field than Martin, although Martin has gotten better, but Kersey's probably, other than Buxton, the best defensive center fielder in the organization, I would imagine, at least one who's remotely major league ready. And I noticed somebody else made this point that it was, if you looked at the timing of when they announced that Buxton was coming back, kind of on an off day, right after a game was played, with Martin going down. I also think that it's they did that on purpose to maximize the return of Martin if there is an injury, like, get him back into the system quickly rather than dawdling or waiting until just before the game to make a move or something like that. So, I mean, that's not to be Debbie Downer, but that to me is a hedge against some kind of negative thing happening to Buxton when he plays. It just wouldn't shock me if.
Yeah, usually the teams will wait to make this move until before first pitch today. Right. So yeah, no, it's it definitely was a proactive situation.
That tells me that they're bracing themselves for Buxton not being able to handle this. So we'll see what happens. But let's take our first break, and then when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the Fort Myers Muscles pitching staff and why those guys were available to come and play against our guys.
Sorry, I cut you off there. I was zoning, but it is our friends at TonaI who are our first sponsors today. And if you're not familiar with TonaI, think about this. For those of us who thrive on getting stuff done, like workouts, every minute counts. In fact, I came from the gym just now. I ran to get some things for my daughter's party this afternoon, and now I'm here. But that's why you also need TonaI, the smart strength system that takes the guesswork out of working out so you can make sure you're making the most of every rep. TonaI is the world's smartest and most effective strength training system, and it helps you get stronger, as most should, right? Powered by AI, TonaI learns with every rep so it can deliver workouts personalized just for you. TonaI learns from your movement and provides suggested weight recommendations for every move with detailed progress reports. They even create personalized programs and workout suggestions or recommendations based on your individual goals. It's just like having a personal trainer, but at home with you. And TonaI will optimize every workout just for you. Unlike traditional gym equipment, TonaI uses adaptive digital weight to advance your training techniques. From professional athletes to the mom of three, TonaI is trusted by thousands who have become their strongest selves. So right now, TonaI is offering our listeners $200 off your purchase with promo code LockedOnMLB. That's TonaI.com, TONAL, and use promo code LockedOnMLB, and you'll get $200 off your purchase. That's TonaI.com. LockedOnMLB is the promo code, and you'll get $200 off.
So, Derek Bender. This story, I didn't see this story coming about the guy who let the other team know what was coming. No. He's a draft pick from this season, from this July, who he wasn't playing particularly well. He went to Coastal Carolina. He was a 6th round pick, so not like one of the major prospects in the organization, but not an insignificant investment either. Was tipping off opponents. Was it Jacksonville? About, I don't know that it matters, but
the jumbo shrimp.
The jumbo shrimp, yeah. Letting them know, hey, this is going to be a cutter. This is going to be a curveball. Just telling the other batters, as if, like, I don't know why he wouldn't know that they weren't going to turn him in. I think it was. There's a term for it that's not socially correct to use, but I think he was doing it on purpose, and he was getting himself in trouble on purpose so he get caught.
Self-sabotage kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely. He like And he said, it was said in the story afterward that he couldn't wait for the season to end. He just wanted it to end already. And that's why he tried to hasten the end of the season. Now, my first thought was some kind of gambling problem. And my second thought was people are gambling on A-ball. My
Low
third
A-ball.
thought was yes. So probably not. Or, maybe somebody is somewhere. I don't know. And my third thought is, it's not right with Derek. It's obviously a betrayal that you can't. It's incredible that somebody would do that. You'd think there would be another way for you to end your season quicker. You could go to your manager or someone in the organization and say, I'm having a tough time or whatever. I still would like to reserve total judgment until we find out exactly what the hell's wrong with this guy. And if it isn't something legitimate and some kind of emotional issue or whatever, I'm not going to trash him. I mean, he's already done that. So I'm not going to pile on. It's just absolutely crazy to me that this would happen. And, like I said, my first thought was there's some kind of nefarious conspiracy going on for someone to make money at these players' expense. And we'll see if there's any truth to that. But it's just a crazy story and just leaves me gobsmacked, as they say.
Yeah, it would be a disqualifier for me for sure of ever bringing him into my organization. And there was a tweet. I'm not going to give this person their recognition, but they said a lot of dudes who've never been in a dugout are casting stones here. I would tell you after 150 plus games, 90% of guys on that diamond wanted to go the hell home. DB is an incredible human being. Wait to hear both sides of this story. So, there is some caution preached there, which again, first of all, he play 60 games at Coastal Carolina, and like he's not 150 games. Sorry, don't have to pretend that's the deal. And I said this too: if you're tired and ready to go home, go home. You're asking careers and all of this nonsense. And as we saw with some pitchers whose numbers were inflated when they faced the Astros a few years ago, that hurts guys' futures. The pitcher who was throwing there gave up many more runs than you might have expected in a shorter stint. And it's also tricky because, and this was explained to me by someone who played Major League Baseball, but minor league baseball, yes, lots of those guys are ready to go home at the end of the year. They don't want to play playoff ball because at least at the time they weren't getting paid for that. So you have to find housing for extra days and games. You have to find, and you're already not making enough money. And a lot of these guys are not the bonus guys who got a ton of money, like Bender here, who got $300,000 nearly on his bonus. So, I mean, even with Uncle Sam taking his cut, he should still theoretically have enough money to get through. Now, again, it's a first world problem to be sick of baseball and be ready to go home. But players have emotional needs and thoughts and everything just the same as the rest of us. This was just the wrong way to go about it. And I don't agree with this guy at all that says, you don't know what you're talking about. You've never been in a dugout if you don't agree with this. It's that misses the mark for me as well. That's kind of also a counterintuitive way to use the you've never been in a dugout, you've never put on a jockstrap tack. It's I would think you would use that in the other way, that like you're letting down all your teammates, right, and you're not competing anymore, and you're I use the word betrayal. It's not maybe not on a like a Benedict Arnold level, but it's still in that ballpark of just why do you have to drag everybody down? Like, why would you do that to your pitcher? You already kind of said that, Brandon, but it's like, like that's the part that it's just crazy to me. And people who do things like that, it just seems like they're not of sound mind. It doesn't mean that they have a mental issue or a mental health issue or anything like that, but still, it seems to me you got to be kind of out of your mind to approach things like that. And it's if he needs help, I hope he gets it, but it's not people already making Falvey jokes and, hey, the Twins really don't know how to scout character because they're too busy worrying about analytics. And he did get the guy did get some defense from a teammate, from Peyton Eales, who's playing for the Saints and played with him in
at Coastal Carolina. So he's like, I understand the organization's decision, but nothing can change what I saw firsthand. Love you, Bendy. So,
well, we're happy for you.
I suppose.
No, but I mean, he probably credit where due. Peyton would probably know better than us, obviously. But I also don't know that I would rush to the defense of someone who did something like this, where it's still probably going to disqualify him from ever playing pro ball again. Don't you think?
I think it would, if not by the letter of the law, you're going to have to, people like to give second chances sometimes for people who've done really despicable things. I can think of, several things that like the Royals have done or were purporting to do for certain players who are accused of things that are worse than what Bender was accused of. So people like to give second chances. And I think in general, that's okay. But at the same time, it's on that note, this is another little, maybe it doesn't have anything to do with gambling, but it does have something to do with the integrity of the game. Yes. And we've had lots of players suspended for gambling related things since baseball has kind of made that more accessible. Just because, you and I can go bet on things doesn't mean that the players should be given carte blanche to do it. But I do think that there is something going on within the game with these little incidences of the game's integrity being challenged, let's just say, by people who, for whatever reason, aren't playing on the up and up. And I think that's where the whole, no gambling whatsoever thing came from since the days of the Black Sox. And I'm not saying we should necessarily go back to that, but I do think that baseball definitely needs to redouble its efforts in making sure that the game is played on the up and up at all levels. I think that should be a basic. I mean, that's a no-brainer to me. And I'm not sure. I don't know everything that they're doing behind the scenes, but I'm not 100% sure that Rob Manfred cares. So
I highly doubt it.
He should. It's something that he should care about. So that's just something to file away for the next story that comes out, where someone isn't giving their best effort or is cheating or is just saying, oh, the heck with it, I'm just going to tell everybody what's coming. It's not cool. It's not what the game needs. We all need to know that these games are being played with the best effort. So but let's take our second break and then come back and we'll talk more Twins ball.
Yeah, I actually have a listener submitted question too, what we should maybe touch on real quickly. So
please,
let's get to that break. Well, how's this for a segue? PrizePicks wants you to know that they are America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS because it's just you with the numbers, more than or less than you pick on 2 to 6 player stat projections. Watch your winnings roll in. Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's, you'd think. His passing in week 1 might draw some questions there, but
hopefully that's enough. Hopefully 1 is enough.
Don't miss this deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends. And you can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as few as 4 correct picks. So get in on the action. California, Texas, Georgia, 30 states, and at least 30 states that we know of that it's active in. So you got to check it out for yourself. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks. You get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. It's like if you were to put it down on the Carolina Panthers, you don't even have to worry about it. PrizePicks, run your game. And of course, we all know about FanDuel. Speaking of football and FanDuel, we have something a little different now through September 22nd. So just a little over a week. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Again, that's from FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And again, through September 22nd, That's all ALL FanDuel customers. You can bet $5 and get free a 3-week trial of Sunday Ticket. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch regular season Sunday afternoon out of market games at your own leisure, which is pretty exciting. All you'll need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit fanduel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Again, through September 22nd, bet $5, get 3 free weeks of NFL Sunday Tickets. You got to check it out for yourself. fanduel.com/lockedon.
So, Brandon, you mentioned that somebody had a question out there in listener land.
Jake J, which I assume is Jake Jarmel from Seinfeld, wants to know about clubhouse friction because Trevor Plouffe mentioned it on Talking Baseball here must have been just recently here. I'm not a frequent listener of that show. No disrespect. I love Trevor Plouffe and whatnot, but he wants to know about clubhouse friction. Now, you would have a unique perspective because you were in that clubhouse recently. With that said, I mean, it's not as though this thing is these kinds of things are blatantly obvious. The teams that I remember being real weird in the clubhouse were 2018 with the Twins. Mind you, I covered about 50, 60 of those games, so I could kind of sense that. In a weekend series, it's probably a little more difficult. But is there a sense on your side that maybe, I don't know if it would be, guys not coming back from injury, if it's guys, there could be any number of reasons, but what is your sense for what you're seeing from this team?
I was kind of bracing myself, looking around for signs of discontent and whatever. And I did feel that it was because the reports that we got, what I saw firsthand early in the season and the reports that we got since from all the reporters who are there every day and other people is that it's a great clubhouse. It's a really good vibe. Rocco has really good instincts for letting the players kind of control things as far as how things are feeling and
govern themselves.
Yes.
Well, we raved about it all, right?
Yeah, we did. It's one. I think it's for all the issues that the Twins have had, I think it's still a strong clubhouse. That said, I didn't see Plouffe's report. He would be in a position he's got sources. I'm sure he knows things that are going on. I'm sure that there is some friction, and I don't know that it's bad. I don't know that it's. I can imagine people, excuse me, kind of wondering, well, why didn't Rocco let Ober pitch, into the 8th inning, or why did he go with this guy, or I think players sometimes they have the same questions and reactions that the same kinds of things that fans do. So it wouldn't surprise me if there are little incidences of the team. Excuse me, as I don't have a.
Well, so can I just add something to this before you?
Yeah, go ahead.
So to get to this point of the season and not have friction would have to be almost impossible. You've been together for 170 days. And imagine, like, what I would liken it to is when you have your friend over in the summer and they stay multiple days instead of just a one night overnight. And at least once, if they stay 2-3 days, you're ready to kill them. You're ready to just punch them in the face and get it over with. Imagine hanging with your buddies all that time. You fight, you make up, you fight, you make up, your best friends, and then you don't want to talk to each other. Again, I don't like to say that any of my experiences in life are normalized to a big leaguer, like things, swing mechanics or anything I do playing the game, but just human nature and being around the same dudes or roughly the same dudes for this many days. I would be shocked if there wasn't friction, to be honest with you.
And I think it's the kind of thing that probably has happened at other points in the season, and they didn't really show it to us or let us know about it because it didn't become a big deal, because it was something that people had their emotional outbursts in the moment, and then it was forgotten about and moved on, or people had a disagreement with how one thing was handled or another, and then they moved on from there. So it's I would not be, as Rocco has said himself, if players weren't bothered by the struggles that we're having, I would think that there's something wrong with them. At this point. So if that kind of friction is normal and what you want and what you expect.
There's an old story, and it was one of the odd years in the 2000 aughts, 05 or 07, where the story goes that Justin Morneau or Torrey Hunter got ticked at the other and swung at him and hit Nick Punto instead. And it was just some kind of dust up. And again, like, I'm sure if you ask them today, that's like, ha ha ha, you know, water under the bridge 15 years ago plus. But that's just the kind of thing you deal with when it's super competitive athletes who are competing not only for the division and the postseason, but also to get playing time. And it should be shocking to us if more of this doesn't happen. We just don't find out about it.
All right. Speaking of the opposite of this, going from caring too much to not caring at all, and it isn't so much of a player versus a player, but player versus a former announcer. I was just reading about how Ken Harrelson cannot watch the White Sox anymore because they're so bad. He gave 33 years of his life to the organization, but since they have, is it 33 wins? Something like that. He's not able to watch them at least every day, or at least maybe most days. Is that how probably it should be? Can you find any fault with the Hawkaroo for not giving a crap about the White Sox based on how they're playing and how they comport themselves and just how awful it is to consume as a product?
Yeah, not at this time. I haven't agreed with Hawk too much over the years, but I think he's right on the no pun intended nose here.
Hey-o.
Hey-o. No, he's right on.
Yeah, so it could be worse, Twins fans. It could be, you could have a situation like the White Sox where they're so bad that you can't even, they disgust you to the degree that you can't even look at them anymore. At least you can still look at Falvey for all his Googling of bad trades. Just think about that sometimes. All right, anyway, that'll do it for this episode of Locked On Twins. For Brandon Warren, this is Dave Brown saying we are going to Casilla
tomorrow
night.
Wrong button.
What happened?
I hit the intro.
Oh.
It's out.
No, we don't want to start over. No.
Bye.